ready?
Yeah, we're almost there.
Almost there.
Couple seconds.
Mike, are we set? We're gonna start right on time. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I would like to call to order the September 14th, 2023 meeting of the Waukegan Planning and Zoning Commission. Can we have a roll call, please?
Anderson? Here. Bill?
Here.
Griffin? Griffin? Here. Grimes? Haug? Haynes? Here. Rivera? Rodriguez?
Here. Okay, we do have a quorum. I'd just like to ask everybody tonight, please make sure you speak into your microphone, make sure your microphone is on, and just so that everybody can hear you and so that it actually gets picked up on the recording. I want to make sure that everybody has their microphone on and that you talk into the mic. Okay, next item, item 2. We have minutes of 2 meetings. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these separately in case anybody has any changes or corrections to either one of them, so we'll vote on them separately. First one is the minutes of the August 10th, 2023 special Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. That was the 6 o'clock meeting. Hope you've all had a chance to look over the minutes. And we have a motion to approve.
I so move.
Motion by Commissioner Anderson,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Haynes. Any comments, corrections, changes to minutes? If not, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Griffin? Yes. Bill?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Haynes?
Yes.
Grimes? Rodriguez?
Yes, motion carries, minutes are approved. Next item, item 2B, is minutes of the August 10th, 2023 regular Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. That was the 7 p.m. meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner
Haynes.
Any comments, corrections, changes to the minutes? Roll call vote, please.
Griffin? Yes. Bill?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Haynes?
Yes.
Grimes? Rodriguez?
Yes, motion carries. Minutes are approved. Next item, item 3, audience time. This is an opportunity for anybody here who would like to address the commission on any item, whether it's on the agenda or not. And if the item that you wish to discuss is on the agenda, since we are having a public hearing for the agenda items, you would be allowed to comment at that time, make comments, ask questions, so forth. So you would like to address the commission?
Yes.
Yes, come on in.
Good evening. Ray Waukegan, 1703 Hyde Park, Waukegan. I wasn't going to speak tonight until I had read the agenda, and on my way over, you're talking about parking and landscape, and on your main agenda item. And on the corner of Grand and Judge, there's a Dunkin' Donuts there. And when the microphone. You got me now?
Oh, yeah, now I can hear you.
Anyways, the parking and the Dunkin' Donuts, that was probably 15 plus years ago that was put in. They were required to put in landscaping, did a nice job with it. But now you've got the fact where it's grown up too much and it's become a hazard for people pulling out on the Grand Avenue. You can't see it all. So that's something that needs to be looked at. But then you've got other situations where you have parking lots. Here's an example, one that was put in 2 years ago that has no plantings around it. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even conform to city code that's been around for 40 years that requires that all parking areas be hard surfaced. The only green that's there is the weeds that are coming through the gravel that's on it. Sadly, that parking lot is owned by the city of Waukegan. It's down at the beach. I guess it was put in 2 years ago. They just put gravel, but it doesn't conform to code with that. You know, if I'm all for making people put in their, what they're supposed to do, but the city should lead by example. That's my only comment on that, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vukovic. Would you please, is there a sheet on the podium there?
No.
There isn't, okay. We usually ask that everybody that speaks write their name on there, so we have it for the record. Thank you. Okay, anybody else who would like to address the commission? All right, item 4, old business. Is there any old business that we need to discuss? Okay, new business. We have one item on the calendar. It's item A, zoning calendar number 2730. It's an amendment to existing conditional use permit to reference a new parking and landscape plan at 2015 North Lewis Avenue. Who will be presenting for, oh, Sam, okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. One agenda item tonight, zoning calendar 2730 for the property at 2015 North Lewis Avenue, Sunset Bowl. If you're familiar with this property, it's on the north side in the 6th Ward. It's zoned B2, surrounded by a lot of other B2, the General Business District, and R6 directly behind it. Right behind the Yeoman Creek, that's where that solar farm is going that we approved the other week. So we're here today because in 2018, there was a conditional use permit granted for a cell tower on this property. It's highlighted there in yellow. That's where it stands today. In that conditional use permit, there was a condition referencing a parking lot layout to be implemented within a 36-month timeline. As you can see in that middle picture, it hasn't yet been implemented for a number of reasons. The city has been working with the property owners and understanding certain hardships at that property and not immediately enforcing that plan. But in our most recent work with the property owners, we have decided it would be best to implement a new parking plan that conforms more with our tree preservation and landscape ordinance. So here we have the originally approved parking layout. It's an improvement over what's there now, but it's not totally conforming. The plan that we are hoping to implement today, it looks like this. So similar but updated. It conforms more with the tree preservation and landscape ordinance in that there are landscape buffers from other properties and along Lewis Avenue down at the bottom. There's amounts of landscaping, including trees, that is all conforming. The reason this is coming to you as an amendment to a conditional use permit is to reference this parking lot layout as opposed to the original that was approved in 2018. This plan has 147 parking spaces. When you discount unusable or uncountable floor space within the building, only 75 are required, so this exceeds what is required. I should point out, this does have a couple nonconformities with the tree preservation and landscape ordinance, mainly in that yellow area, that buffer from Elmwood Avenue. It's just a hair short of the 10 feet that's required, although there is a significant portion of landscaping that's within the right-of-way. I can address that later. There's also a shortage of the amount of landscape island square footage, and I will address that in a second as well. You'll notice that there are a number of parking spaces highlighted in yellow behind the building. Those parking spaces are, thank you, Isabel, located within the city right-of-way. The property owner hopes to use those eventually, although to use those parking spaces, he will need to come back for a vacation. The vacation at a minimum needs to include the area including those parking spaces if he wishes to use them. We as a staff recommend he vacates enough right-of-way to capture the entire 10-foot landscape setback along Elmwood Avenue, as well as enough square footage to accommodate the landscape island requirement. Why can't we give him that right now? Well, should the city ever expand Elmwood Avenue in that property that's rightfully ours, we want to make sure that that property is always conforming with what is required. So this conditional use permit is subject to the same standards as always, even though it's an amendment to a previously approved conditional use permit. Staff has recommended a number of conditions. I'd like to draw your eyes to a few of them. Number 7 says that the lighting on the site should be dimmable, dark sky compliant, and not exceeding 4,000 Kelvin temperature. That's essentially saying it needs to point down at the parking lot and it can't be too bright. Below that is number 9. He has 2 years to implement this parking plan. We know that paving takes a while, permits can be tricky. We've talked with the engineers and the property owner. They're ready to start paving as soon as the permit is approved, but we want to give him that grace period should he need it. And then number 10 is a condition that the applicant appear before the Planning and Zoning Commission again to vacate a portion of the right-of-way if he chooses to use those spots in the back. Even if he doesn't, there will need to be a variance to accommodate that shortened landscape buffer and landscape islands. That could be a development review board application depending on square footage. But that condition that he comes back, we'll probably see him soon. That is all I have. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Sorry.
Item 11 states all those conditions of zoning calendar 2541 not amended in this zoning calendar item must be met in addition to the conditions listed in this amendment. 2541 was before my time, so I don't remember, I don't have any recollection of what that would be. What are there items that have not been met other than this parking situation?
No, I read that ordinance. I believe it might be in your packets. If it's not, I apologize. But yeah, I don't believe there are any other things that are not followed in that plan. Most of the conditions in there were regarding the cell tower, so, you know, tricky stuff on maybe in the bowling alley, but gotta follow on.
I'm sorry, one more. So the right-of-way is not the actual road, it's the space between the property line and where the road starts.
That's correct. So the right-of-way you can see on the screen is that long with 2 short dashed line up at the top along Elmwood Avenue. That's the property line. So there's a significant amount of space that's not road, it's a landscape buffer, but that's city property. If he so chooses, he could vacate the entire right-of-way and make that a private road. That vacation will obviously be in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. That's not before you today, and we can talk about those implications. But a portion to cover those parking spaces is required to use those spots.
So today, what we're deciding is if we approve of this, the parking lot plan, including the tree and landscaping, along with the usage of this right-of-way space, is that what we're looking at, or is that being asked of us today?
Not exactly. So I wanted to tell you about that vacation and right-of-way stuff because it's going to be coming up and because those are on the layout. What you're approving today is for them to pave the parking lot like this. They're not allowed to use those spots in the back until they get that vacation. That's not before you today.
Okay, and then the tree, we've been talking about this, that it's upcoming as far as being required, and this is a step away from that in terms of the level of trees and everything like that, the amount of landscaping that's in here, not counting this right-of-way area, that it doesn't meet the requirements?
So it's just shy of our current requirements. Yeah, it's 10-foot landscape buffer from any right-of-way. I think it's just
So
shy.
it's just that section, it's not the overall amount of trees and landscaping that they're short on, it's just that one section is a little bit short in terms of what dimension it's supposed to be.
Yes, and total square footage of landscape islands. It's probable that when the vacation comes forward and they take that landscaping, that it'll be covered. So since that's a condition that he's going to come back, there's no variance for it. If the vacation does not cover that, there will be a variance for it.
And what do you mean by just shy?
So I can find the exact number
I mean, is it 10%, 5%, 2%?
I
mean,
believe it's like
approximately.
a couple feet.
A couple, okay,
Yeah,
because that can mean a lot of things, just want to make
yes,
sure.
it can.
That's okay, I understand, that's good.
Any other questions for city staff?
Usually on a site this big, this parking lot, wouldn't there be a water retention basin or something like that? Or was the floodplain not there? And if we put dams up along there, are we gonna impede the flow back towards the landfill?
Good question. The landscaping on the property is going to help this, and it's definitely an improvement on what's there now. This property did obtain a watershed permit through the engineering department, so essentially that means it's not shedding an excessive amount of water onto neighboring properties. It's holding enough on the site.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for city staff? Okay, I'd like to ask if anybody here has any questions for city staff. All right, the petitioner, Mr. Gotchis?
Mr. Gochus, yes.
Gotchis, okay. Would you step up to the microphone, please? And I'd like to swear you in, please. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Please make your presentation, and before you leave the podium, please make sure that you sign your name and on the, do we have the sheet up there?
I really don't really have a presentation. I was asked to come in case there were questions asked of me. You know, we've been working on this for quite a while, and especially pretty hardcore the last 10 months, right? I mean, we've been working with this cell phone tower company that's doing the engineering and going back and forth with getting the proper amount of landscaping. I did lose, with this plan, I did lose quite a few parking spots. I think I was about 175 spots, and now I'm down to 147, with 5 of them being handicap spots. So I'm losing some parking, but I do feel it's enough parking for my current business that I have. But I, of course, hope to get more business. You know, I'm doing some other renovations in the building. I'm getting a new scoring system. I'm trying to improve the business. I'm putting some money into the business, and I expect to hopefully fill up those parking spots. And that's where that area behind the building will be important, because that'll give me a little bit of chance for those days if I have all the lanes going. I have a party room with 75 guests in there if they rent my room for a party. We've got the bar, we've got the pool hall. All those things could then put me in a pinch of where are they gonna park, right? So that is a concern of mine, but for right now, the 140 spots is plenty for what I currently have. But if I wanna go back to when I was early 2000s, when I had a full house every night of the week, you know, the parking lot was a lot fuller. But, you know, those days are kinda hopefully gonna come back someday. But all I can do is keep working hard and trying to promote the business, and I just wanna have a place for the people to park. So that's why it's important for those extra spots. I don't plan on them being, you know, used, only on certain days of those years when we have that full capacity. And that's really determined by the party room. Because if someone books a party and they have 75 guests, then you've got a lot more cars coming in. The bowling alley itself can only hold so many people right on the lane, so I have plenty of parking, I believe, for that. So.
Thank you.
How long do you anticipate it will take to implement the plan that you're
1 month.
giving us? 1 month?
1 month. Hopefully, we're gonna try to get this on the council hearing for October 2nd. There's gonna be 2 meetings, hopefully, if they can get it arranged that way. Otherwise, we'd have to wait till the 16th, which is gonna be a little tougher with weather and the time of year. So we are dealing with the asphalt plants and all that stuff. So if we can somehow get this on the approval permit for October 2nd, then they have everyone on construction ready to start on October 3rd. And we're gonna do it in 4 phases. So we're gonna do the north part of the lot in first phase, so our bowlers can have a place to park, and then the next week, they're gonna have a different place they're gonna park, and it's gonna be a little bit of a 1-month inconvenience, but my bowlers are gonna love it. I mean, it's gonna look beautiful, it's gonna be a great new parking lot, and they all are aware of this happening. You know, I just don't know where they're gonna have to park. I'm gonna give them more details once we get closer. If we have to wait till the 16th, which would be the next city council meeting, then they also have them on schedule for the 17th, but the prayer is that we can get this started on October 3rd, because it would really help us with any kind of a project this size, these are really professionals that are doing this. These people do like Walmarts and Targets and big lots. But every project, as you probably know, things happen when they start digging things up and they start doing stuff. There could be some complications, and we just want to make sure they have enough time before that first snowfall. I don't know when that's going to be. We have had snow in November, but typically it's not until after December.
The landscaping will be a great improvement. I'm excited to see it.
I am too. I mean, the bowlers are excited, everyone's excited. You know, it's a little bit, you know, different layout, but everyone will have to just get used to it, that's all.
Yeah.
I mean, so, but it's gonna be a good thing for the people who drive by my building. It'll make it look very pretty. Hopefully that'll also encourage new customers to check my place out, because inside my place it's very nice. It's an old building, but it's inside, it's very bright and very nice and clean, you know, and we just got to get them to come in. And I think the parking lot, the way it is now and the way it's been the last 10 years, it's kind of like, I've had people come in there and they go, wow, this place is great in here. I've never thought of coming in here because of the way it looked on the outside. So I'm excited for that. And then hopefully with the new scoring system and the other, I got the new bathrooms last year. I put in brand new bathrooms. So I'm pretty psyched about giving them that experience they're looking for when they come in, and hoping to come back over and over again. So.
In the city's Planning and Zoning Commission staff report, there are 13 recommendations, conditions that city staff are recommending that you comply with if we were to, if you were actually granted this request. Have you read these? Are you familiar with what they are?
I don't know if I have.
They were in that email the other day. You can read them.
Thank you.
So while Mr. Goches reviews the conditions, I wanted to just say something briefly about conditions 9 and 11. For 9, I would recommend when making your motion to, instead of conditional use permit, so this must be, this parking lot layout must be improved within 24 months of the approval of the, I would just say, amendment to the conditional use permit, so that there's no confusion over when this actually kicks in, because we're not approving a conditional use permit, we're approving an amendment to it. The conditional use permit exists. As for 11, I would recommend, when you make your motion, that the conditions of the ordinance, and the ordinance, Sam included it in here, it's 18042. They are likely the same as what was in zoning calendar 2541. However, what we have before us is the ordinance from 2018, and so just those two conditions, slight tweaks that I recommend, and of
Change
course,
zoning calendar 2541 to 18-0-42?
yes.
Okay. Have you had a chance to?
Yes.
read them? Do you feel that you can comply with these
Yes.
conditions?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions for the petitioner from commissioners? No? Okay, I'd like to ask if there's anybody else here who would like to speak out either in support of or in opposition to this request. Okay. I guess at this point we can ask for a motion. Is there something else we need to do?
That's it, if someone
That's it,
wants to
okay.
make a motion.
All right.
And I can, if you want, I can kind of verbalize what the motion would look like.
Please.
So this would be a motion to recommend approval of the amendment to the existing conditional use permit with the modifications to the conditions as I stated earlier.
24 months?
Correct, that's 24 months from the time the city council approves the amendment to the conditional use permit. So it gives them 2 years.
However, he stated he's going to be doing it in the beginning of, middle of October, if the city council approves it. He's going to do it this year.
So it just kind of gives a drop dead date. He might not take up all of it.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner
Haynes.
Haynes? Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Griffin. Any further discussion on the motion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I have one comment.
Please.
And I have been concerned about the landscaping aspect of parking lots and zonings that are granted. And they're never kept up. And I think Mr. Vukovich has an excellent point. You know, there's dead trees in parking lots and.
We're not hearing, is your microphone on? You're not being picked up by the recording.
Pardon me?
Try
Right here,
speaking.
right here.
I did.
Is it on? Okay,
Green light's on.
okay.
But anyway, if the landscaping isn't maintained, it defeats the purpose.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Okay, where do we stand? Roll call vote?
Griffin?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Haynes?
Yes.
Grimes? Rodriguez?
Yes, motion carries. Congratulations, good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Gochis, I apologize for mispronouncing your name, but I have a reason for that.
What's that?
My daughter married David Gochis from Overland Park, Kansas. Name spelled the same way that family pronounced it, Gochis.
Okay.
Maybe they pronounce it differently in Kansas.
Supposedly, there's a Peter Gochis in Kenosha. And there's also a Thomas Gochis. They own bars in Kenosha. One of my friends who lives up there was just shooting the stuff with the bar owner, and now we're supposed to get a schedule. He's a cousin of mine that I met when I was real little, and we did meet each other. But now, 50 years later or 40 years later, we're supposed to get together to just say hello and see each other again. They used to live in Glenview when I was younger, when we used to live in Buffalo Grove, but they moved up to the Wisconsin area, and it was a very distant, it's like a second cousin with my dad, but anyway, we're somewhat related, so. I haven't seen too many Gochises, and it's now I have a Gotchis that I have to look out for, so, okay. Thank you again.
Thank you. What is the next step then? What date is that?
October 2nd, Community Development Committee.
That's what I come here again?
Yes.
And then what happens, is that when we're trying to do the meeting after that too? We're
Well,
trying
if
to
we get approval
If
for
we get
that,
approval for
we'll
that.
see what we can do.
That would be fantastic, yeah. It just helps us with timing, like I said, things come up and I don't want to get into the winter. I like to get this project done. It's been on my mind for 4 years and I just want it done and get my new lot.
Good, we're looking forward to it too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, nothing else under new business, is there, that we need to discuss? No?
No,
Okay.
sir.
Item 6, discussion on the rules of procedure for the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I believe you are going to be making the presentation?
Not a formal presentation, but more just a request for feedback. So the last few months, we've been doing this different order of business, giving you a PowerPoint presentation. I know the back screen is a little bit difficult to see for some folks. So I could use feedback on that too. I've been wanting to suggest to IT to install some screens facing the dais, maybe midway in the room. So if that were feedback that you had, I would certainly pass that along. But really just looking for your thoughts on how this is going, if it's helpful to get the presentation from staff first with the explanation of what the project is, some visuals to go along with it. Open to discussion, whatever your thoughts are.
I think it's great. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the insight before, you know, we get the petitioner to give it. It gives us a background of what we're supposed to be doing, and then we get to hear what they have to say, and I think it's great.
Thank you.
I like it too, and what I like also is sometimes we have petitioners who aren't very slick, and then we have really slick ones. And this way, we get the city's point of view. You've been working with them for a very long time. And I do like the presentations that you've been making on the TVs. That's nice, or on the screens.
It would be nice if it was either bigger or closer, to be honest. I mean, I know some of it we have in our paperwork, but it always is helpful when you go over it, and it would be nice to be able to see it a little bit better.
Sure. I would love it if there were individual screens at your seats, but I don't know that I can get that done.
I was just gonna say that.
Okay. Well, then I'll pass it along as your feedback.
Noel, I also want to say, and I said it before, but having Marcus here is so critical. And I know that that's an expense for the city, but I think it's an investment. It keeps all of us kind of on our toes and on the straight and narrow, which I really, really appreciate. I feel like it has professionalized the process immensely.
Thank you.
I don't know about others, but.
Oh, I feel that I really need his guidance.
I agree, it's
And
great.
I always used to be concerned that sometimes when we had questions about how we were handling something, we didn't know if we were doing it correctly or legally, or you know, if we were violating somebody's rights. And this way, it makes me feel a lot more comfortable that we're doing things correctly, and I always have somebody to lean over and ask a question to when I'm confused about something. So I've told him before, you know, I really love it. He kicks me in the shins every now and then when I'm doing something. No, he doesn't really, but.
He kicks me in the shins too, from all the way up there. The staff is very happy to have him here as well. He's always an asset for us in this room and otherwise, so it gives us a great deal more confidence also to have his presence and intellect and contributions to our process to make sure that we're.
So personable, does a great job, love to smile.
Noel, I have a question.
Yes.
Because I've only been here for less than a year, when this gentleman makes a comment such as he did at the beginning in the open audience time, and it seems to have some legitimate thought behind it, what is the process now that it's not on our agenda, it's a comment that the public has brought, which seems to have some merit to it. So
Yes.
what do we do at this point?
So I always pass that input back to whomever is responsible for it. So in this case, the overgrown landscaping, I will share with code enforcement and ask them to take a look and enforce appropriately if it's something that's enforceable. And the comment with regard to the city's property, I'll pass along to the mayor's office.
Okay, and so what can this gentleman do to follow up and find out what has happened to his comments?
He can follow up with me directly, and I can follow up then later on with those departments, or he can follow up directly with those departments.
Because it's nice to have audience time, but when it's not related to what's on the agenda, and a person who's a public citizen walks out the door, I feel like they should know where they should go to find out what has happened based on their comments, especially when they have merit.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
just
And
for
those
your
comments are
information.
always welcomed at audience time at the city council meetings as well,
Okay.
which I'm sure Mr. Vukovich is well aware of.
Well, that's good to know. I learned something though, so.
Any
I
other
have-
discussion on the item?
I have one other comment, and that is to reinforce and thank you for the training. I think that all of commissions like this should have that kind of training. It was extremely helpful. I wish I had had it when I started. But it was good, and I think it has, some of the things that are coming up the CMAT presentation and the Unified Development Ordinance and all of that. I'm really excited about seeing that kind of progress.
Thank you for that feedback. It's something that I have tried to implement since I've been the director, and this was the first year that I was able to get budget to do it. And so it's exciting for me that the administration is supporting not only staff getting education and training, but also preparing our commissioners. So I'll remind everybody that Mr. Hill was here and did record that session. So it does live on the Waukegan YouTube channel, Waukegan TV. So anybody who wants a refresher on it or missed the meeting, please watch that training. It was very interesting. It was a great refresher for me, and I learned some new stuff too. So we were just talking about it, that the main presenter, Mr. Cross, was really an outstanding presenter and did a great job for us. So, thank you for that. Any other feedback on the rules of procedure, the order that we're doing things?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just one person, okay, and I realize that everybody sees things differently.
Could you lean into your microphone, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
absolutely. And
Thank
I
you,
would
sir.
like to just give my thoughts on the new order of hearing. You know, this reminds me, and you know, tonight's agenda item was not a good representation of the typical type of presentation that we have, because this was more of a technical thing, and in this case, having the city go first was kind of that was really the basic presentation. The gentleman here really didn't know enough of the technical jargon to be able to make the presentation. But however, in most cases, there's an applicant requesting a hearing on a request that they're making for some kind of a project. And this new order reminds me of State of the Union address. I mentioned that to you before. You know, president is going to talk. So what happens? You know, all of the news people are talking all day about what the president's going to say. You know, you listen to all day. The president's going to say this, he's going to say that, he's going to do that. Then the president talks. And then after he talks, then they tell you what the president said. Okay? And that's, to me, the way that this seems. It seems kind of an unnecessary step, because we're going to hear the person's presentation, we're going to hear the city's comments on it anyway, and it just seems like it's redundant that we're doing that, you know, maybe twice, with the city speaking first, and then, you know, telling us what the presenter's going to say, then the presenter says it, and then we rehash it all. That's not my biggest concern. My other concern is the fact that when the city makes a presentation before the person has had a chance to have a hearing, and even if the city attempts to be neutral in their presentation, there's going to be some bias that's going to come out. And, you know, I know the city staff have backed off from making recommendations for approval or non-approval, but there are still conditions, and there are still sentiments and ideas and feelings that come out when the city makes their presentation. And even though the city staff try to be neutral, and I just feel that this taints the water a bit, because before the person has had a chance to make a presentation at a fair hearing, city has already had a chance to come out and possibly prejudice the commissioners regarding what they're going to hear, just by injecting their own thoughts into it. So I like the old way, and you know, at first I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm a creature of habit. I don't like change, and I also kept telling everybody I can get used to it. It's, you know, not a big deal, just as long as we're covering all the same stuff. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I think the old way is better. I think that you know, having the staff come up and tell us what the petitioner is going to say is not necessary. The petitioner can say it, and then the staff can comment on it later. And I also think just the fact that, you know, that it possibly can have some sort of an unconscious bias before the petitioner has a chance to speak at a fair and impartial hearing, I think that could have an impact on the way that the commissioners perceive the presentation. So I would like to see the order of hearing stay the way that it's been, that we've been doing it over the years that I've been on the commission. But as I said, I'm only one person, so this is going to be something that's going to be put to a vote, and the commission will make the decision.
Thank you.
I would just like to, Chairman Rodriguez, I think you make a good point. It's a point that I had not really considered. So I do think that you have a good point there. From my perspective, my lack of knowledge, because I am so new to this, I find some of the information, and maybe the information that's presented needs to be different. I find some of it to be good for my foundational understanding of things, to be able to make a decision on what the applicant, the petitioner, is asking for. But I do understand what you're saying, so I'm kind of adjusting my thought based on his comments, because I hadn't really thought of that. I was only thinking of me in terms of how it helped me, and not necessarily how it was fair to the petitioner or not. So I do think he has some good points.
I don't disagree. You know, we certainly try to be impartial and present only the facts to you. And certainly the conditions can present a point of view, perhaps. So maybe we want to think about breaking up the presentation where we're presenting, you know, just the original project, what the request is, what the site is, that kind of thing. Offer the petitioner an opportunity to speak on it, and then come back and talk about conditions and things like that. Part of the reason that we wanted to make this change in the first place is that we had many occasions where a petitioner came up here and didn't know what to say, didn't know how to talk about the project. And I personally felt like not only was that difficult and unfair to a petitioner who's not used to or comfortable with public speaking, but it also made things more confusing for the commissioners and for the audience. It also extended the time of the hearings much longer than they needed to be. So my position was, if we can present to you up front what the project is, what the facts are about the site and the situation and the request, then we've established the framework that we're looking at for you to take those required factors to make your determination and start to apply them to the project. So, you know, I'm open to suggestion, which is why I wanted to do this as a dialogue first before we present you with any actual changes to the rules. I wanted your feedback on it. We're open to suggestion. We're flexible with trying different things. I just still have concerns with when we put petitioners out here before you as the first thing that, you know, it's different when we have an engineer presenting on behalf of or an architect on behalf of a client who knows what they're doing. But when it's an individual person, you know, no matter how well they know their project, they don't necessarily know the technicalities. And I think that just makes it a struggle for everybody. I've sat here any number of times just aching for the person who you could tell was so uncomfortable standing up here in front of you. And I want to come up and hold their hand and say, it'll be okay, let's just talk about it. So, you know, we're trying to find the right balance of those things, and I understand all of the points of view that you're expressing and appreciate your willingness to share them.
Chair, may I be heard?
Sure, please.
So how the rules of procedure read right now is that evidence shall be presented in the following order, and then it gives 9 steps where the applicant makes the statement, presents their case first, and then after that the commission or the department makes their statement afterwards. One way we can change this to give it a little bit of flexibility is changing that evidence shall be presented to may be presented. Because as you said, the way that it was presented today is not necessarily typical. Sam gave a presentation which was very helpful. It painted the picture so that when the applicant had their turn to speak, the commissioners had a clear picture in their mind of what it was that this applicant is asking for. And as Noel said, maybe that's not the case all the time. Maybe there's a very informed engineer who comes up first, and in that case, they want to go first. And so giving ourselves wiggle room, changing that shall to a may might be enough to take it on a case-by-case basis.
So with that flexibility in mind, what would you think about us letting the petitioner choose whether they want to make the opening presentation or whether they would like us to set the framework? Would that be something that you're comfortable with?
We've had developers who have slideshows and who have boards and who have their engineer and their lawyer and their finance person. And I want to hear all of that. So I do like that ability. And then we've had others, I agree. That's why I said sometimes we have glitz and sometimes we have the opposite. So I've liked your presentations because they've been clear and to the point. And if we give people a choice, that really allows for both. I like that solution.
What do you think, Chairman Rodriguez?
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Well, there's no decision on your agenda tonight, so if
Yeah.
everybody will
It's
just
just
think about it
discussion.
some more. And, you know, we can talk about whether we want to present an idea next month for a different order and how we might wordsmith that, or we can discuss it some more, whatever you like. There's no time frame by which we have to change things or make an update. I appreciate the chairman's willingness to let us tweak it and play with it a little bit while we're trying to get it right. But, you know, we want everybody to be happy with the process and the outcomes, so.
You know, I'm very flexible, and, you know, as long as I'm chairman, I'm willing to do whichever way the commission feels is best, you know, and I'll, you know, handle it equally well, I believe, either way.
Sure.
I just had those observations. I mean, it just came to me that, you know, those are some issues that needed to be discussed. And so I would say maybe we need to have more discussion, another discussion, before we actually put this on the agenda for a vote. So, you know, if you want to continue with the way that we're currently doing it now, the new proposed order, we can do that. Just see how it plays out, and maybe have another agenda discussion item before we actually vote on it.
I think that sounds great.
I'm also interested in our customers.
Yes.
What are their opinions?
Sure.
Because this could be very intimidating if you're not used to coming to city council or you're not involved, and all of a sudden you're put in front of this group of people who are going to make a decision about something you've probably been working on for months, years, or a lifetime. And so I'm really interested in, are we meeting our customers' needs?
I am too.
So I don't know how you get at that,
Yeah.
but I certainly would like to know. Do they feel like they've had a fair hearing?
Yeah.
And do they walk out knowing what they have to do and the time frame? And if they don't, what's going to happen?
Well, typically, if somebody truly feels like they didn't have a fair hearing and the outcome at the end is not what they wanted, we'll hear from their lawyers.
There's always a
So,
lawyer, right,
yes.
Marcus?
Well, speaking of always a lawyer, in addition to the change that Noel described with the order, there's other changes just cleaning up our rules of procedure. One thing I would suggest is making explicit the chairman's ability to impose a reasonable time limit, which we've interpreted to be 3 minutes.
Yes.
Making the chairman's ability to make evidentiary decisions. For instance, someone gets up there and starts talking about something completely irrelevant. I think that the rules of procedure should be explicit in that the chairman can cut them off and say, that has nothing to do with this, move to your next point.
Agreed.
Another
That would be during the public hearing, not during audience time.
I would, yeah, during audience
during
time,
audience time,
they have 3 minutes to say what they will, and then
Free rein.
Free reign. Within reason.
Within
Okay.
reason, of course.
As for remote attendance, we should incorporate, or we should consider incorporating explicitly the ability to appear remotely within the provisions of the Open Meetings Act. And I describe it like that because the Open Meetings Act recently was amended to allow a public official or an appointed, just a member of a public body to attend these meetings for childcare needs. And so as the Open Meetings Act evolves and changes, if we allow this commission to meet within the bounds of the Open Meetings Act, then
We have to anyway.
if we don't, then we can't. If we don't,
We could have stricter requirements than the Open Meetings Act,
Exactly.
so.
another one is allowing, if you want, the adjournment of a meeting to be not by roll call, but just by voice vote, if you wished.
Yeah, we've been doing that voice vote.
And, yeah, we can make it explicit within the rules, just so it doesn't require. Absolutely, because right now how it is that with the exception of the approval of minutes, all decisions shall be made by roll call vote. And
We're
so,
not spending any money.
exactly, yeah, it's adjournment. Who's going to want to spend another hour? I think we're all agreed.
And I do have the option of requesting a roll call vote for the minutes. I always feel that that is important since that is the official record and document of what took place. It's a legal document. I feel it's important to have everybody's voice heard.
And in fact, we can
And
go the
account
other
for it.
way. We can say that all decisions should be by voice vote, or all decisions other than adjournment, not by voice vote, by roll call.
By roll call vote.
So that's just something to think about. Lastly, we had a situation where there was a continuance that an applicant asked for prior to coming, or prior to the date of the meeting. The applicant didn't come, and we were put into a position where the commission could have voted to say no to the continuance. The applicant's not here, the objectors were here. And so what do you do when the applicant is not present, but they've kind of been given the okay to come to the next meeting? What we could do is either automatically give a continuance on a first time up, or make it administrative, or allow the chairman to grant a continuance. How it is right now is that continuances are at the discretion and approval of a simple majority of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so just something to think about as we consider our rules of procedure.
I have one concern. When we have something that's controversial, and you've got 20, 25 people saying the same thing, is it possible that they could have a spokesman and address specific issues instead of 20 different people coming up here saying, I hate Waukegan and I don't want to be a part of it?
Yeah, that's something that we've discussed in the past, and when there is a large group of people, like we did it once in I can't remember what it was for, recently, where we asked if there was one person that the group agreed could act as their spokesman, and then we let that spokesman come up and speak for the group, and we actually gave that person more time. Remember that? What was it? Right, the golf thing, right, exactly. That's what that was. And then there's also the, I have the authority to let the chairman has the authority to let the public know when they are being repetitive and when there's no new evidence to present. What I will do is ask, is there anything new? Is there any new evidence? Is there somebody who has something to say other than what the group has already said? And that'll kind of thin things out a little bit. So, anything you want to add to that?
I think that's everything. Well put by Commissioner Griffin, well put by the chair.
Thank you. He said you done good.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the discussion.
Thank you.
It's hard to sit here and listen to that.
Yes, it is.
All right, let's see, where are we? Any other discussion on the rules of procedure? No? Okay, in that case, we're up to item number 7, which is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Commissioner Grimes, second by Commissioner Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at 7:55.